Hello everyone. Today we will discuss about the spinal cord part 2. Now the external features of the spinal cord, these are mainly four. There is a fissure and sulci, attachment of the spinal nerves, enlargement and the chorda equina. Now first of all the fissures and the sulci. Now just look at the diagram. This is the anterior aspect of the spinal cord and this is the posterior aspect of the spinal cord. Now the anterior aspect we are having one anterior median fissure, this one anterior median fissure and two anterolateral sulci. Okay, and the posterior aspect we are having one posteromedian sulcus, two posterolateral sulcus and two posterintermediate sulcus. Now remember this anteromedian fissure is actually deep and extends along the entire length of the spinal cord and mainly and remember anterior spinal artery actually runs in this anteromedian fissure. While in the posteromedian sulcus is actually faint longitudinal groove and from its floor a septum of neuroglial tissue extends into the substance of the cord to a variable extent. So remember over here from the anteromedian fissure anterior spinal artery and from the posteromedian sulcus remember the septum of the neuroglial tissue actually extends. Now remember the surface of this cord is actually divided into two equal halves by this anteromedian fissure and the posteromedian sulcus. Okay, and these two equal halves are actually further divided or subdivided into posterior, lateral and the anterior regions by the anterolateral and the posterolateral sulcus. This anterolateral sulcus and the posterolateral sulcus actually further divides the equal half of this spinal cord into further three regions, that is the posterior, lateral and the anterior. And very important thing is that through this anterolateral sulcus, remember the ventral root fiber of the spinal nerve arises, while through this posterolateral sulcus, of course, the dorsal or the posterior nerve root of the spinal nerve arises. Now next, the attachment of the spinal nerves. Now we all know we have 31 pair of spinal nerve emerging from the side of the spinal cord, and out of this 31, 8 are cervical, 12 are thoracic, 5 are lumbar, 5 are sacral and 1 is coccygeal. Now each spinal nerve is attached to the cord by remember two roots, that is the anterior root and the posterior root. Okay, anterior root, anterior is the motor one, while the posterior is the sensory one. Okay, and the posterior root has ganglion having pseudo unipolar cell. This is the posterior root and this is the ganglion of the posterior root, and it is actually made up of pseudo unipolar cells. And each of the two root is mainly formed by remember rootlets. Now next is spinal segments. Now we have made 31 pairs of spinal nerves. Okay, now but the level of each spinal nerve is different. It's not compulsory that the particular spinal nerve will be attached to this particular level of vertebra only. Okay, we have general rules over here. So we'll discuss about each of them. Now first of all, the upper cervical region. In the upper cervical region, the spinal segment suppose C2. So in the upper cervical, the vertebral level is same, that means at the same level. While at the lower cervical region, that means around C6, okay, suppose in the C6, the vertebral level is one level above, means C5. So general rule over here is one vertebra above. Now this lower cervical level is only up to C7, cervical nerve, right? But what about C8? We all know that we have only C7 cervical vertebrae, but the spinal nerve, cervical spinal nerve is C8, up till C8. So what about the C8? So remember the C8 spinal nerve is mainly attached between the C7 and T1 vertebrae. Okay, now the upper thoracic, suppose the spinal number is T5, nerve is T5, so the vertebral level will be T3, so means 2 vertebral level above. While for the lower thoracic, for T10 suppose, it will be T7, that means 3 vertebral level above. So it is very simple up till here, that means upper cervical same level, lower cervical 1 vertebral level above, upper thoracic 2 vertebral level above, lower thoracic 3 vertebral level above, right? Now what about the lumbar? We have mainly 5 lumbar nerves, lumbar spinal nerves. So the vertebral level for them is T10 and T11, that means 3 to 5 vertebral level above. Okay, up till this over here we will be having the 3 vertebral above, where over here the attachment will be 3 to 5 vertebral levels above for lumbar vertebrae. Okay, and for the sacral and the coccygeus, S1 to S5 and the C1, they will attach at the T12 and L1 segment. So means 6 to 10 vertebral level above. So remember, for lumbar 3 to 5 vertebral level above, and for sacral and coccygeus 6 to 10 vertebral level above. Now next is the enlargement in this spinal cord. Now what are this? The spinal cord is actually roughly cylindrical in shape, as you can see, with an average diameter of about 1.25 centimeter. Now but at some regions of this, opposite to the attachment of the nerve roots, contributing to the formation of the brachial plexus and the lumbosacral plexus, the spinal cord represents definite fusiform swellings known as the cervical enlargement and the lumbar enlargement. So in simple words, what happens is, this is the cervical enlargement and this is lumbar enlargement. Now over here in this enlargement, remember, in the whole spinal cord length it is the same, but over at two places it is enlarged. Why? Because over here there is attachment of the nerve roots that supplies the upper limb and the lower limb muscles and the girdles, right? And as because of this, they have to supply a particular large amount of muscles and the girdles. Over here the motor neurons, they have a large motor neuron in this region, which supplies the muscles of the upper and the lower limb and the attachment and the girdles, right? So as because of this region actually gets enlarged, okay, because this region actually forms the brachial plexus, okay, and the nerve root for that to supply a particular limb, and over here there is lumbosacral plexus. So remember, the cervical enlargement, there is brachial plexus nerve root arising, while from the lumbar enlargement there will be lumbosacral nerve root arising from this. And why they are enlarged? Because there is large amount of motor neuron attached over here or present over here, which actually supplies the musculature of over here for the upper limb and over here for the lower limb, because over here the brachial plexus is present, which supplies the upper limb, while over here there will be lumbosacral plexus, which supplies the lower limb. And the cervical enlargement actually extends from the C5 to T1, while lumbar enlargement extends from the L2 to L3. So in simple words, we can say that the cervical enlargement is enlarged because of the large amount of motor neurons present over here, and it has the nerve root for the brachial plexus, which supplies the upper limb and the attached girdles over there. While over here the lumbar enlargement is actually enlarged. Why? Because it has large amount of motor neurons, okay, and has mainly the lumbosacral plexus, means it actually gives the nerve root for the lumbosacral plexus for the supplying the musculature of the lower limb and the attached girdles. C5 to T1 and L2 to S3. But the vertebral levels of these are actually different. Remember, the vertebral level for cervical enlargement, this is actually spinal root value, right? The spinal value. But the vertebral value is different. Remember, for the vertebral value for the cervical enlargement, it is mainly C3 to T1. C3 to T1, while for this lumbar enlargement, it is T9 to L1. So spinal level for this is C5 to T1, but vertebral level is C3 to T1, while for over here spinal level is L2 to S3, while the vertebral level is T9 to L1. So these are the features: cervical enlargement C5 T1 and lumbar enlargement L2 to S3. Vertebral level C3 to T1, vertebral level T9 to L1. The circumference, it is 38 mm and this 35 mm. Okay, and the innervation supply the upper limb and the girdles, and supply the lower limb and the girdles. Now last is the chorda equina. The last property, external feature of the spinal cord is the chorda equina. Now as you can see, these are the chorda equina. Now since the cord, we all know the cord is actually shorter than the vertebral column, right? Because it actually extends from the C1 to the L1 only, right? So it is shorter as compared to the vertebral canal length or the column length. Okay, and so because of this, the length and the obliquity of the spinal roots increases. Why? Because they have to pass through the intervertebral foramen, right? As you can see over here. Okay, up till L1 there is very less obliquity in the curvature of this spinal nerves, but after this L1 they have to curve a lot and they are oblique more. Why? Because they have to pass through the intervertebral foramen to go outside, right? And as because of this, they have to move and curve a lot. Okay, and as because of this, the nerve root of the lumbar, sacral and the coccygeus nerve from the caudal part of the cord takes more or less vertical course. okay, mainly less only, and forms a bunch of nerve fiber around the phylum terminale known as the chorda equina. Okay, this is the phylum terminale, this one. Okay, and around the phylum terminale they actually form this something nerve fiber, a bunch of nerve fiber around the phylum terminale, okay, known as the chorda equina, because it actually resemble like the tail of the horse. And the chorda equina consists of the roots of, remember, very important, remember, lower 4 pairs of lumbar, 5 sacral and 1 coccygeus. Okay, remember, lower 4 pairs of lumbar means L2 to L5, sacral whole all 5, and the 1 coccygeal nerve. So this is the end of part 2. We will discuss about the further topic spinal cord in a further next videos. So hope you understood well. Thank you so much.